Can you slate that louder? Because I want to have a fucking stroke. Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
Wow. That's the loudest fucking...
Keep the slate away from Mr. Belzer's delicate ears.
How long have I been in the business?
100 years.
Loudest fucking
100 years.
clapper, or whatever you call it. All right.
Okay, just a second.
Oh, I thought that was it. After that stress, we're still not fucking shooting. Hi, Dick Belzer. Anyway, we're talking with Paul Shaffer, who has the incredible job of every night working as the band leader of the Letterman show, is it?
Yes, sir. It
David
is the
Letterman.
longest lounge gig, I think, in recorded history. David Letterman.
David Letterman, who is, you know, the best late night talk show host.
I think that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Certainly the smartest, the funniest, and the quickest.
Over the years, you know, he's given you more stuff
He
to...
certainly creates for me a sort of an atmosphere where I feel free to say anything I want.
And he made
has
it that
said,
way
do
for you.
whatever you want. Absolutely, to me, in those absolute words.
Which is an
It's pretty
amazing
good.
testament to
Pretty
show
good.
how secure he feels about it.
Yeah.
How old were you when you came to New York?
Well, about 24.
Right. How did you get Saturday Night Live?
I had done some other shows in Toronto.
Right.
And met this kid, Howard Shore, who came and played
Right.
the saxophone on one of those shows. And Howard Shore turned out to be the best friend of Lorne Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live. They had done shows in summer camp together. And I get a call from Howard. He said, I know you're in town doing the Magic Show already on Broadway. I'm coming to town to do a television show with Lorne Michaels. They had to call it NBC's Saturday Night because Howard Cosell had a Saturday Night Live, I think.
Right.
Oh, they wanted to call it Saturday Night Live. It was an NBC Saturday Night, and he hired me for the band. And he said, you'll be perfect because in the cast, they've already hired people that you know. You know, Gilda Radner
John.
got hired, and John Belushi was, besides you, one of the first people that I met back then in '74 when I came to town. My friends were people like Brian Doyle Murray, who used to date Gilda in Toronto. And
Yeah.
he would tell me about, I've got this brother who's doing Second City in Chicago who does the funniest bit that you would love. It was Bill Murray. He would come out as
The lounge guy.
Yeah, well, first he would come out as the handsome singer and do Volare, and then he'd say, hey, wait a minute, where's my partner? And the guy would come out in a diaper. You're not my partner, you're a little baby. And he'd say, you would love this, it's right up your alley. Brian had moved to New York by this time already, trying to get over Gilda. You know,
In the early 70s.
Introduced me around to Belushi, introduced me to the late, great Doug Kenny,
Right.
who was responsible for
Lampoon.
the National Lampoon, yeah.
Did John, or was it Dave Thomas? You brought Dave Thomas in, but John brought you in to Catch a Rising Star one night, is that?
I guess that's true. I don't know how I did. Oh, well, the reason I became hip to Catch a Rising Star is there was a party given by Gilda to celebrate the upcoming opening of a show that they were all doing for the Lampoon. This was before Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Gilda and Harold Ramis and Belushi and Bill Murray.
Right. I took
And you
Harold's
went into
place.
the show, didn't you?
Yes.
You went into the show in the,
After Harold
in the
left.
highly coveted improvisational spot that only Harold and you could have done, where you just took questions from the audience in character and gave answers.
Carlos Castaneda was
What a hip character, Matt, when you think back on it. And this was a party where they were kind of trying out material that they were going to be doing 2 weeks from now when they opened. And you were at the party. Gilda, John, you were doing bits that we soon saw on stage in this cabaret show that they did. And you said, I'll be right back. I got to go over to the Catch a Rising Star nightclub and do a set, and I'll be back. And you left. And I said, boy, I just got into New York. I said, am I ever lucky? I'm the luckiest guy in the world to know a comic. First of all, just to know a stand-up comic. He's leaving a party. He's going to do a set. And then sure enough, after your set, you came back to the party, ordered another drink, and I said, this guy came back to the party. I'm the luckiest man in the world. That was the night we met. And then, of course, I went down and checked you out
at the club.
Catch a Rising Star. And I remember a night when I came with Belushi and Chevy Chase. And Saturday Night Live had just gone on the air.
And this is not everyone came on
Yes.
stage?
Yeah, I came up with them. We all
Yes,
thought
that's
we were
right.
so cool, and
It
we
was
were
like
in show business.
The
We
Rat
could-
Pack, but with a
we
small
could-
R.
Yeah, we could drop in on another guy who was on stage. And
Well, we did the things that we admired before we were in the business.
Well, you know-
I remember once you were on an elevator with Britney Spears by chance, and what did she say to you?
well, that's an interesting
I mean, she's
story. Kind of relate, I guess, speaks to, as they say, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
She was doing a drop-in thing. It struck me it was like when Bob Hope used to drop in on the Johnny Carson show, and somebody even suggested you should just play "Thanks for the Memories" when she drops in, and which I was going to do. And then there she was, right in the elevator, going up to her dressing room, and I introduced myself, and I said, I wanted her to know, we weren't going to play some hip thing when she came out. It was going to be old-fashioned. I said, you're like Bob Hope dropping in, and so I thought I'd play "Thanks for the Memories" for you. And she said, great, who's Bob Hope?
Oh, no.
Yes, well,
Yeah,
when you
I
think
mean-
of it, it's somebody from outside of her world.
Who's
and
Bob Hope?
I said, well, darling, long before you were born, there was a legendary guy who, and he would drop in a lot. And,
Explained it to
and
her.
then after I got off, it was reported to me later that kind of a light bulb went off overhead, and she said, oh, that's Dave's DJ. She realized finally
Who you were.
who I was. Dave's DJ, because I was selecting music and
That's
her
how she
world.
put it,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But then I realized, in her world, DJs are absolutely...
Yeah, that was a compliment.
Absolutely what's happening. And I took a compliment graciously and happily from Miss Spears. And we're thrilled, really, that she has found happiness now.
Yes, we're very happy for her. Have you noticed, is there an educational gap among young performers and their knowledge of popular music? There's a thing like in sports where if a ball player doesn't know the history of the game and just plays for his own ego, there's a lot of, obviously, new performers coming up all the time. Is there a sense of history to it? I mean, you're a historian essentially also, but what's going on in music today, and is there a gap between the established mentality and my inarticulate question?
I would guess that it's a sort of just like ball players. There are those who know the history, and often I run across the guys like Jack White, for instance, a guy who is very knowledgeable about the roots of R&B, of country, of rock and roll. And can keep up with anybody in that area. And then there are people that don't care about the history.
There was a big debate about will rock and roll last? Rock and roll is here to stay.
Isn't that funny?
It will never die.
And, in the end of the 70s, when they said, well, rap, is just a rapper's delight is a novelty thing, in about 79,
Yeah.
whenever that came out. That
Sure.
won't last.
No, it couldn't.
Turns out these things, they have legs after all. And it turned out that there was a thing called black people that had been suppressed all this time, and P.S. had invented a form of music that was just way more exciting